Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning, stepping outside with your coffee, only to find strangers setting up wedding tables in your backyard. No warning, no permission, just chaos. That's exactly what happened to me. But this wasn't just a mistake. This was the start of a war. I never imagined that buying a house could feel like winning the lottery. After years of working double shifts, saving every penny, and surviving a messy divorce, I finally found what I thought was my dream home. A small ranch-style house tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, with 2 acres of land and a backyard framed by towering oak trees. To me, it wasn't just a house, it was freedom. Every morning, I'd step outside, breathe in the fresh air, and hear the soft chime of wind chimes my late mother had given me. The sound was comforting, almost like her presence was still there, watching over me. My workshop in the garage smelled of fresh sawdust, the kind of smell that reminded me of possibility. This place was my sanctuary, where no one could tell me what to do or how to live. I had plans for this backyard, family barbecues, maybe even a pool someday. But more than anything, it was supposed to be my private escape from the chaos of the world, a space where I could finally heal and rebuild my life in peace. At least that's what I believed. What I didn't know was that behind the neat lawns and polite smiles of the neighborhood, trouble was quietly waiting. And soon my sanctuary, the very place I thought no one could touch, was about to be invaded in the most unbelievable way imaginable. It started with a sound. At 6 in the morning, while my coffee machine was still groaning and the sun hadn't even cleared the rooftops, I heard it. Clink, clink, clink. The metallic snap of folding chairs being opened. At first, I thought maybe my neighbor was hosting something, maybe setting up early for a yard sale. But the sound was too close. I rubbed my eyes, wandered toward the window and froze. There, in my backyard, were 3 strangers in matching polo shirts, setting up white reception tables. On my grass, under my oak trees. I stormed outside, still holding my empty coffee mug like it was going to help me make sense of this madness. "Excuse me, what exactly are you doing?" I barked. A woman with a clipboard barely looked up. "We're setting up for the Morrison wedding reception," she said matter-of-factly, like I was the intruder. "We have authorization from the HOA." For a moment, my brain stalled. "Lady," I said, pointing around, "this is my house, my backyard, not some community park." She calmly flipped through her papers and held up what looked like an official contract, stamped with the HOA letterhead. "Per community use rights, this property has been designated as a recreational space for approved gatherings." I laughed, then stopped, realizing she was serious. "You're telling me that you're hosting a wedding here, today, on my private property?" "Yes," she smiled. 150 guests, full catering, live band. The bride specifically requested this location because of the mature oak trees. I stared at her, speechless, as a catering truck pulled up my driveway. Men in black shirts hopped out, carrying trays and coolers. A florist van arrived right behind them. Suddenly, the quiet Saturday I'd been dreaming of turned into the opening scene of a nightmare, and the person behind it all. Linda Morrison. HOA president, self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, and the kind of woman who could find a problem with a blade of grass. Linda had ruled the HOA for 6 years like a dictator in heels. She was a real estate agent, living in the biggest house on the block, with fake columns and a lawn so manicured it looked like plastic. She was the kind of person who timed how long your guests parked on the street and mailed fines for unsightly vehicle storage. My work van, parked in my own driveway, had earned me my first $150 violation. And like a fool, I paid it, setting a precedent that Linda could bully me. Now she was escalating from petty fines to full-scale invasion. My backyard wasn't just hosting a wedding, it was the stage for her daughter's wedding, without asking me, without paying me, without even informing me. I pulled out my phone and called Linda, straight to voicemail. I called the HOA office. Her assistant cheerfully confirmed the event. "Oh yes, the Morrison wedding. Lovely venue choice." "Lovely venue choice?" I nearly shouted. "It's not a venue, it's my house." 20 minutes later, Linda finally called me back. "Jack, I understand your confusion," she said smoothly, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Per Section 12, 4 of the HOA covenants, community enhancement events can be scheduled on designated recreational properties with board approval. Recreational property? This is my backyard. Your deed includes a shared recreational designation, she continued, as if reading from a script. If you interfere, you could face legal action for breach of covenant. For a split second, I doubted myself. Had I missed something when I signed those papers? That doubt gnawed at me until I grabbed my truck keys and headed straight for the county courthouse. Inside the records office, I flipped through every page of my deed. Page 1, no mention of shared space. Page 2, nothing. By the end, I was shaking with relief and anger. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing giving the HOA rights to my backyard, which meant Linda had forged this entire arrangement. And then I discovered more. A little digging into public records revealed her daughter Sarah had gone to law school, but failed the bar exam twice. Yet she'd been working as Linda's so-called legal advisor. My guess? Sarah had drafted the bogus contract, counting on legal jargon to intimidate me. I drove home ready to shut everything down, but by then it was too late. My driveway was packed with vendor trucks. A DJ was running extension cords to my outlets. Strangers were hanging lights between my oak trees. A dance floor was half assembled near my shed. And worse, invitations had already gone out. 150 people were expecting to celebrate here, at my address. Neighbors started whispering. Notes appeared on my mailbox. Texts from people I barely knew accused me of ruining a young couple's dream wedding. I was the villain now, the selfish neighbor standing in the way of true love. Then came the emotional ambush. Sarah, the bride, showed up at my door in her gown. Mascara streaked down her face. "Please, Mr. Jack," she sobbed. "This is my dream wedding. We've been planning for 2 years. Just one day of happiness." For 30 seconds, I almost caved. Who could say no to a crying bride? But then she mentioned the $8,000 venue rental her mother had charged her for my backyard. My sympathy evaporated. Her mother wasn't just stealing from me. She was scamming her own daughter. That's when I knew. This wasn't about stopping a wedding. This was about exposing Linda Morrison. I called my lawyer, my brother who worked as a journalist, and my neighbor Carol, a retired accountant with a sharp eye for fraud. Together we dug into HOA records. What we found was staggering. Tens of thousands missing. Fake invoices paid to companies run by Linda's relatives. Assessments collected for projects that never happened. Linda wasn't just power-hungry. She was a thief. I scheduled demolition crews for Monday morning. Pool installation, soil testing, the works. Not because I really wanted to destroy my backyard, but because I wanted Linda to know her grip on my property was temporary. Saturday arrived like a storm. Guests in suits and dresses filled my street. The reception tables gleamed under the sun. The band tuned their instruments. And then Linda strutted in, wearing her designer suit, flanked by 3 people in matching polo shirts with community standards enforcement printed on them. She raised her voice. "Attention, everyone. This man has been harassing my family and interfering with a lawful community event. I've brought county code officials to resolve this once and for all." I smiled. "Perfect timing," I said, stepping up to the microphone meant for the DJ. "Because I have a few guests of my own." Out stepped Fire Marshal Rodriguez, clipboard in hand. "I've inspected this property. All permits are in order. There are no violations." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Then another voice rang out. "Actually, there are violations, financial ones." Detective Chen flashed her badge. "Linda Morrison, you're under arrest for embezzlement, insurance fraud, and filing false reports." The guests gasped. Linda's face turned pale. But I wasn't done. I held up a folder. "Ladies and gentlemen, your HOA president has been stealing from you. $47,000 in neighborhood funds. She even charged her own daughter $8,000 to rent my backyard, without my permission." The crowd erupted. Neighbors shouted, demanding answers. Linda tried to lunge at me, but the detective cuffed her on the spot. And just like that, the wedding reception turned into the scene of her downfall. But here's the twist. The wedding itself still happened. Scaled down, legal, and beautiful under my oak trees. 50 guests stayed. Sarah got married, and the community, freed from Linda's shadow, rallied together. Linda lost everything: her position, her license, her freedom. The HOA was reformed with transparent rules, and my backyard? It stayed mine. No pool, no venue, just oak trees and wind chimes. But every August, the neighborhood gathers there for a skills fair, teaching each other carpentry, plumbing, gardening. Real community, not manufactured by fines and threats. And every time I hear those wind chimes, I remember the day Linda Morrison tried to steal my backyard for a wedding, and how it ended with her being marched out in handcuffs, while the bride still said, "I do." Because sometimes justice isn't loud or violent. Sometimes justice is simply making sure the truth comes out at the right time, in front of the right people. And sometimes the sweetest wedding gift of all is watching the mother-in-law get arrested.